Hi class, good day. Today we will talk about the subject and content in art. So first is the subject. So what is subject? This is the what of an artwork. It can be a person, an object, a theme, or an event or an idea. So when we say subject, it is something that we are talking about in an art. So ano yung subject ng art? What is the topic of the art? Or what is the focus of the art? Or what is the image in the work of art? So basically, pag sinabi nating subject, pwede siyang tao, it can be an object, it can be a car, it could be an apple, it can be an event as well. So, moving on with content, when we say content, that is the why of the art of an artwork. So, bakit ginawa itong artwork na to? What is kumbaga what is behind this artwork? So, it indicates the artist's intention or the meaning behind the work. So, when we say content, that is the meaning of the artwork itself. Why is the artwork created? So, it could be an intellectual message of an artwork, a statement, it could be an expression or mood developed by the artist and interpreted by the observer. So, once again, when we say subject, that is the what of an artwork, meaning ano yung focus ng work. When we say content, that is the meaning behind the artwork. So, the content of an artwork is equivalent to its meaning, as what I told in the previous slide. So, the content, it has, or the meaning in an artwork has levels, so different levels of meaning of an artwork. The first one is the factual, meaning this is the literal statement or the narrative content in the work which can be directly understood because the objects presented are easily recognized. So when we say factual, this is the obvious meaning of an artwork. Like for example, you are nagdrawing ka o tao, then that's the meaning behind your artwork. It's a portrait of a person. Maybe it's your loved one or it's your girlfriend or boyfriend. So that's certainly a portrait. So that's a factual meaning. Another meaning of an artwork can be a conventional meaning. So this is special meaning that a certain object or color has for a particular culture or group of people. So when we say conventional meaning, for example, flag. So if an artwork contains a flag is a symbol of a nation, right? So that is the meaning behind the flag. It's a symbol of a nation. When an artwork naman consists of a cross, then we can say that that artwork is related to maybe the Christian religion, because cross is a symbol of the Christian religion. So that is what we mean by conventional meaning, meaning uh, it is tied with of a certain group or culture. So kapag, for example, dove, asa man na to ma-associate ang dove, it is associated with peace. So ingana ang mga conventional meaning. The last level of meaning is subjective. So when we say subjective, this could be any personal meaning consciously or unconsciously conveyed by the artist using a private symbolism which stems from his own association to certain action or colors with past experiences. So when we say subjective, it means that the meaning is different per observer or per audience. So hindi siya isang meaning lang, kundi one audience from another can interpret an artwork differently. So different ang interpretation ng isang artwork. And this is evident in abstract arts. So later on, makakita tag example of an abstract art, and I believe you already have an idea of what abstract art is. Usually, ano siya na kanang dili siya masabtan. Like, siguro mga kuris-kuris lang, doodle-doodle lang. Ingan ang abstract art. So, it definitely has no clear subject or obvious subject at all. So, that's why the meaning can be subjective, like different interpretations from different people. So, that is the three level of meaning of a content in art. So now let's move on with the classification of art according to its subject, since we are talking about subject here. So we have two classification of art according to the subject of art. So the first one is a representational art. So when we say representational, it represents something obvious. So artworks that are clearly derived from real object sources and therefore represent something with strong visual references to the real world. So example, a human figure, an apple, a car, or anything that is recognizable as scenes, objects, or figures. So when we say representational art, the subject of the art, for example, a painting, your subject or your focus there is a human figure. So, kung nag-drawing ka dira og naong sa imong crush, then that is a representational art because it represents the person itself. Like, nag-paint ka dira or nag-sketch ka og naong sa imong crush, then it represents the real person, which is your crush. So, that is representational art. Another thing is, for example, objects. So, for example, nag-sculpt ka, anong Tagalog sa sculpt. Basta naghimo kag sculpture sa imuhang favorite na or sa imong pet. So, gusto nimo i-commemorate ang imong pet because maybe your pet already died and gusto nimo siya nga ma-remember, so nagpahimo kag sculpture sa imong pet. So that is clearly a representational art because the sculpture itself represents the pet that you had lost. So that's representational art. So another classification of art according to the subject is non-representational art. So when we say non-representational, kabaliktaran lang ni siya sa representational, it does not represent something that is easily recognizable. So this is what we also call as an abstract art. So ingon ko kaganina, we have an abstract art that do not represent descriptions, stories, or references to identifiable objects or symbols. The subject here in non-representational art is unrecognizable. So, for example, kanang makakita tag art nga kanang mahal kaayo no, kanang ginabalita sa TV, tapos mahal kay siya na art pero murag kuris-kuris lang or like labay-labay lang og paint. So, wala ta kasabot unsay meaning ana niya but it cost a huge amount of money. So that is an example of non-representational art, meaning the subject is really not recognizable. Dili ka makaingon nga tao ni siya, or apple ni siya, or tree ni siya. So dili ing ana ang sa non-representational art. So basically, the difference between representational and non-representational is ang representational, it represents something from the word representational. Ang non-representational, it does not represent something very obvious or something that is recognizable. So the idea of abstract art got its start in the early 20th century when artists began to move away from strict depictions of real-world elements to express inner ideas, theories, and emotions. So kaning mga non-representational art or abstract art in the early 20th century na ni sila nag-boom or naggawas because ang mga artists at that time, kumbaga very concerned na sila with expressing their inner thoughts, their ideas, their emotions. So you cannot put a symbol on emotion man, no? So that's why they they created this abstract art because emotion could be very chaotic, it could be very serene, and so on and so forth. So later on, I will show you a picture of representational arts and also non-representational arts. So examples of representational art. So we have here, the first one is the Virgin and Child with Saint Anne. So that is a painting by Leonardo da Vinci. So kabalo man siguro mo asa dira ang Virgin and Child with Saint Anne. So naay bata na asi Mama Mary and Saint Anne, the Mother of Mary. So this is clearly a representational art because naay human beings. ma-recognize nimo ang subject sa art nga ang subject niya is tao, 'di ba? Or ang focus sa kaning artwork is ang tao, like na si Mama Mary, ang child, and si Saint Anne. So that's an example of representational art. Another thing is Four Apples by Paul Cézanne. So this one, this picture right here is a painting of four apples. So that's very obvious. The subject is very obvious. And the subject is apple. And you also have another example of representational art, which is a sculpture. This is by Donatello. So he is also a famous sculptor. And this one is entitled David. So last time I have also showed you David pod no lain pod to si ano ato si Michelangelo ato. So this one right here, this is the work of Donatello. So it's representational art because it represents human being. So si David, I don't know who this human being is or kinsa ang inspiration ani, but that's a human being. So it represents something. That is representational art. So now, for non-representational art, as what I told you before, it is an abstract work. So we have examples here. O, di ba? Kuris-kuris lang, linya-linya lang, ano no? Tapos mahal kayo ni pagpalito nini mo ng mga art. So this one from left to right, the first one here is Convergence, that is entitled Convergence by Jackson Pollock. And Jackson Pollock is known for mga abstract works, artworks. So, ing ana siya, oh. So, wala ta ka-gets unsay ginamini niya ana nga painting, no? But, if you are really into arts and nag-study kag arts, you analyze it, you analyze the background of the painter or the artist, then you will have or you will get an idea of how would you interpret these works, these abstract works. So, ambot lang jud kay Jackson Pollock kung sa ginamin niya aning iyahang work. So, the next one here in the middle part, that's Painting with Red Spot. So, that is the title of the painting, no? That is by Wassily Kandinsky. So, he's also a famous abstract artist. So, I don't know unsa iyahang ginapaglaban dira sa iyahang artwork. And the last one is Composition in Red, Yellow, Blue, and Black by Piet Mondrian. So, the similarities of all of these artworks is that they don't have any recognizable subject at all. Like, wala man kay makita nga tao dira, no? Or wala man kay makita nga animal or unsa ba? Fruits, trees, wala man po. Dili man po siya nag-represent og event or it does not represent nature. So, dili siya masabtan. So, naging non-representational art siya because the subject is not recognizable. Okay? So, now, let's move on with the sources of subject. So, kanina, na-classify na natin yung different classification of art according to subject. Ngayon, saan naman tayo humuhugot ng inspiration for subject? So, the first one is from the nature. So, in the history of man, artists have explored different ways of representing nature ranging from animals, plants, bodies of water, and landforms, weather, and changing seasons. So, very common jud kayo ni siya na source of subject is ang nature. Like, you want to paint a landscape, you want to paint the mountain, or you want to paint falls, and so on and so forth. Anything that is makita nato sa nature. So that is very common source of subject for an artwork. Not just in painting, but other forms of artworks as well. Like sculpture, gusto ko mag-sculpt of tree dira, so go on. So another source of subject could be historical events. So all arts are conditioned by the historical period which they were created. The dress, the houses, the manner of living, and the thoughts are necessarily reflected in the work of the artists. So an artist could be also inspired or pwede po sila magkuha og subject nila from historical events, like representing, they want to represent historical events. So for example, kaning naa nato na painting dire, this is entitled Victory in Mactan on the 27th of April 1521, and this was painted in the year 2021 by Israel Jesse Lewis, or Jet. He was my classmate way back in college. So yeah, I am presenting his work here to you. Kay wala lang. He is actually a good artist. And as you can see here sa painting na ito, this is the Victory in Mactan, and that is part of our history as Filipinos, 'di ba? So basically, klaro kaayo na ang iyang subject diri is based on historical events. So dili lang kani ang ano no, daghan pa kaayo tag pwede na history na pwede na to i-translate into art. Okay? Another source of subject could also be Greek and Roman mythologies. So these have been very important sources for the subject in art, where the higher beings such as a multitude of gods and goddesses interacted with humans. So basically, ang kaning Greek and Roman mythologies, this is about gods and goddesses. So we have here an example. This is The Birth of Venus by Sandro Botticelli. He's also a famous painter. So as you can see here, na ay angel, na ay babae nga buntis, or wait, buntis ba ni siya? I'm not sure. But, or siya ang gipanganak, dili ko sure. But this is entitled The Birth of Venus. So naatay mga, kumbaga, mythical creatures dire, no? So this is definitely from Greek and Roman mythology. So artists could also get their subject from the Judo-Christian tradition. So this tradition reveals the belief in one supreme being, which has been a common theme in paintings, church architecture, sculpture, sacred scriptures, songs, embroideries, and many more. So kanino, because we are a Christian country, the Philippines is a Christian country, daghan pud kaayo jud tag artworks that is based on the Judo-Christian tradition. So kaning sa likod niya, sa simbahan, no, mga ingani ang mga paintings, or mga sabi tawag ani kanang glass painting, gina-paint sa glass, and kanang kung nakaadto mo cathedral, naapod sila yung painting dito sa ilang ceiling. So those are kumbaga inspired by the Judo-Christian tradition. So daghan kaayo jud og mga portrait ni Jesus, portrait ni Mama Mary. So art is basically also inspired by the Christian tradition as well. So we have rich collection of art that is inspired by the Judo-Christian tradition. So next one, we also have sacred Oriental text. So that could also be a source of a subject in art. So the countries of the Orient, especially China, Japan, India, have all produced texts of one kind or another, and these have inspired various kinds of art. Most fruitful have been the texts and traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism. So literature and sacred texts in India are deeply rooted in Vedic texts called Upanishads, Puranas, and other Sanskrit epics such as Mahabharata and Ramayana. So kani siya, an example nato dere is, this is a Bhagavad Gita. This is part of the famous epic of Mahabharata. So this is also, kumbaga, sacred Oriental texts are also sources of subject, or they could also be the subject of an artwork itself. So kanang mga Sanskrit letters na to or mga literature, as I told you in our previous lesson, literature is also a form of art, right? So naapod tay mga nasulat na mga epic. So just like this one, the Bhagavad Gita. So definitely ang iyang source of subject is ang sacred oriental texts. Now, let's move on with the kinds of subject. So, kanina, that is source of subject. Kumbaga, saan tayo pwede ma-inspire or kumuha ng subject. Now, ano yung types of the subject itself? So, the first one is a subject could be history, or one better way to start creating an artwork is to look at the past. So many artists have been inspired to create an artwork from historic events. So kanina sabi ko, historical events can be a source of subject, no? Now, subject again could be history itself. So the rich history of the Philippines has been a foundation of monuments all around the country, from national heroes and former presidents of the country to specific societal conditions during the colonial period. So this one, makita na to sa picture, this is a monument of Rizal. And kung pangutan-untaon sa nga kind of subject, this is history. Okay? That is the kind of subject that this sculpture is or is representing. So, nasa sa Rizal dira yung sculpture, and even sa schools like elementary schools naagid na ulo ni Rizal. So that is the type of subject, kana siya nga subject, that is history. So this one, the painting here at in or at the bottom, makita nato no kanang kumbaga naglaban-laban man ni sila. So that is also history. So maybe that is a battle between the sila mga foreigners siguro or foreign countries nga naga-invade sa Philippines. So the kind of subject that we have here is history. So let's move on with still life. So another kind of subject or type of subject is what we call still life. It contains inanimate or non-living objects which are arranged in a location, usually set indoors, and contains at least a man-made object such as basket, vase, or bag. So parang still life. Examples include a basket of fruits, a bunch of flour in a vase, or a bag of groceries. So we have here an example kaning sa top. This is by Vincent van Gogh. That is still life vase with 15 flowers. So that is or that was created in the year 1988. So nga na ang example sa still life. Another one is by Caravaggio. So this one here at the bottom, that is basket of fruit. So basically ang still life, it's more or less it's about flowers nga gi-arrange or fruits nga gipangbutang sa lamesa tapos imo siyang gipaint. So that is what we call still life. So moving on, we also have figures. Another kind of subject is figure. So like the human body figure. This subject entails the use of a model, usually a human figure, cloth or naked or not cloth. So an example here, this one in the middle na picture, this is oble. This is oblation. We call him oble in UP. So ano na siya? Like lalaki na siya nga makita yung something. So that is oble. And this one right here, nakuha lang nako ni siya sa internet. This is a wire sculpture. So makita nato siya nga figure ni siya na kind of subject because ang iyang subject is ang human body itself, or the model of the art is the human body. So yung ana ang mga figures. Like katong ipakita po nako before sa inyo nga David. So that is also an example of figure as a subject. So we also have portraits. So portraits, these are people, mga noun sa tao, no? So people have always been intrigued by the human face as an index of the owner's character and an instrument of expression. So daghan kaayo tag mga artworks na portrait. So usually pag mayon tag portrait, ang face yun ang focus ana. It could be a whole body portrait, but ang focus gid ana is the person, the face of the person. Okay? So, kung natin mga kailan ng mga artist, usually nag-sketch og mga noun, no? So, that the kind of subject nga ilahang gina employ sa ilang art is portrait. So, this is entitled, kaning sa middle na picture, this is entitled Girl, sino? Girl Before a Mirror, man siguro niya, kalimot ko. Pero this is Girl Before a Mirror. I'll just search that one. And the other picture naman na may unibrow, that is Frida Kahlo. And Frida Kahlo is also a famous artist. So makita nato nga portrait na siya because this is the portrait of their face, the a painting of their face. So that is portrait. Ay, another example pa is the photographs. Kanang pagpicturean ta no, mga 2 by 2 picture, or picturean lang ta nga half body, makita ang noun. That is an example of portrait. Kumbaga, the subject there is portrait or the human face. So, next is, we also have animals. So, animals could be also a kind of subject. So, artists paint animals or sculpt animals or ano pa ba? Yeah. So the earliest paintings found in a number of caves in Europe were animals. So katong mga ano no na ay napakita na pud nako before sa other lesson nato katong murag ang cave painting is na ay I don't know, baka siguro to or unsa ba to, karabaw nga ilahang ginahunt. So basically these paintings ang subject nila is animals. So since man benefits from hunting in the ancient times for survival, even in paintings or other works of art, animals have become an interesting subject to use. So dali ra kay nato ni ma-recognize kasi nga we know an animal when we see one, di ba? Parang na lang kung animal ang imong ex. So, i-categorize na to siya as animal. Moving on, we also have landscape. A kind of subject could also be a landscape. So the focus of this subject is the natural scenery of various landforms, which include mountains, cliffs, forests, valleys, plains, plateau, and the like, where the main subject is a wide view. So kani obvious pud kaayo na when we say landscape, land. Okay? Like kanang painting sa Mount Apo or a photograph of a Mount Apo or kanisha. These are the works of Fernando Amorsolo. He is a famous Filipino artist na kailangan atong i-appreciate because he is our own. Kalahi nato siya. So these are paintings of Fernando Amorsolo. I wasn't able na to put the titles of this painting, but we'll have that later on. Okay? So, inga na ang landscape. Next naman, we have seascape. So just like landscape, it's still a view, but this time di na siya land, but it's the water or the sea. So the emphasis of seascape as a subject are the water forms, which include the ocean, sea, river, brook, pond, falls, and etc. So I have here an example of a seascape. These two paintings right here are examples of seascape. So makita obvious kaayo nga ang iyahang ginapakita or iyang subject is ang dagat or maybe ang wave sa dagat or anything that is water. Mo na siya ang seascape. So the first picture sa top, that is the Gulf Stream by Winslow Homer. And sa baba naman, that is the Great Wave by Katsushika Hokusai. So kani siya, famous ni siya actually ang the Great Wave of Kanagawa. Mao pa na siya yung other name sa Great Wave, the Great Wave of Kanagawa. So, clear kaayo na, these are the subject in these paintings is seascape. Okay, the kind of subject. So, next one, we also have cityscape. So, just like landscape and seascape, the cityscape is also a wide view. So, the subject is usually an aerial view of a city or a portion of it. So, city, from the word itself, city, cityscape, city. So, landscape, seascapes, and cityscapes result from the fascination of artists with their physical environment. So kaning tulo, they really encompass the physical environment. So the cityscape, I have here an example, ingana no, painting of this one sa baba. This is a digital art of a city, mga skyscrapers, no? Mga buildings, buildings at night. So, ingana ang cityscape. So, it's very obvious. So, now we also have religion and mythology. So, the religion and mythology could also be a subject of an artwork. So most of the world's religions have used the arts to aid in worship, to instruct, to inspire feelings of devotion, and to impress and convert non-believers. So we have here an example of really ang subjects sa art is religion and mythology. This one, the first one right here, that is called The Creation of Adam by Michelangelo. So kanya siya si God daw ni nga gipaint pod ni Michelangelo, and this is man. So ing ano, kumbaga, it represents religion. And this one as well, The Last Supper, this is a very famous painting and very controversial as well. This is by Leonardo da Vinci. So this is, kumbaga, The Last Supper, si Jesus and his 12 apostles katong before na matay si Jesus. So the subject right there is obviously about religion, and when we say mythology, kato na mga Greeks and Roman gods and goddesses. So mga sila Medusa, Zeus, kasi pa may mga gods, mga a god of the underworld, Hades, mga ano. Kung sila na gani ang ginapakita dira sa painting, then definitely the kind of subject there is religion and mythology. So next, so we also have dreams and fantasies. So when we say dream, mga ano na to, no? Kumbaga, they are the things that are in our minds lang, in our imagination, fantasies as well. So dreams are usually vague and illogical, and these are the most common inspiration of the surrealist artists. They have tried to depict dreams as well as the grotesque terrors and apprehensions that lurk the depth of the subconscious. So, kaning dreams and fantasies, of course, naman gyud tay mga nice nga dream, napod tay mga, kumbaga, nightmares nga ginatawag nato. So, artists find a way to kumbaga, ano tawag na, artists found a way to present those dreams and fantasies in a work of art. So for example, we have here in the first picture, sa taas ng picture, that is Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali, and the picture or the painting at the bottom, that is The Sleeping Gypsy by Henry Rousseau. So sa makita nato dire, kumbaga, dili dreams and fantasies, the subject could actually be abstract in a way na dili na to sila gets good. Like for example, kani, although these are this represents time or watch, but in an unconventional way, no? Parang something weird, something that only happens in our dreams or something that we imagine. So, ing ani ang example of dreams and fantasies. So the last one, the last kind of subject that we have is everyday life. And this is very easy to recognize in a painting or in a work of art. Artists have always shown a deep concern about life around them. So this subject depicts scenes of everyday life. So example, the works of Fernando Amorsolo are usually about everyday life. So ito, sa top painting, that is Tinikling in Barrio, and sa baba naman, that is Mango Pickers. Wala siya ang iyahang title. So when we say everyday life, kumbaga kung makakita tag artwork and we identify it as an everyday life, we can identify it as an everyday life because it shows literally scenes of the everyday life. Like mga painting siguro about busy streets, or mga painting about um, mga market day, nga na, no? Makita tag mga painting ana, for sure, ang kind of subject diha is everyday life. So, makita na to diri sa painting, kani siya, nagtinikling sila sa baryo. Maybe it's a fiesta because they have they have dance number, they have tinikling. And sa baba naman, this is mango pickers. So, nagpick lang sila ng mango. Something that happens in the everyday life. So, those are all the kinds of subjects. So that ends our lesson, which is the subject and the content. So make sure to watch this video because this will be included in the midterm exam. So yung mga types of subjects, what is subject, what is content, classification of subjects, that will be included in the midterm exam. So once again, thank you for watching, and please study all of the things that we have tackled so far so that you will get an A for the exam.